Good afternoon. I am Donna Imhoff. I am the campus president of this campus, Allegheny campus. And on behalf of the Community College of Allegheny County, I want to welcome all of you to the Robert M. Mill Lecture Series, which Mr. Mill is one of CCAC's great alumni and great friends, and a graduate of our first graduating class, though that was only last year. But we're really glad to, most importantly, have this honor of this lecture series on his behalf. Today we have the pleasure of hearing an incredible story of Wendell August Forge, of which I am a tremendous fan. We were just discussing the amount of time I spend on their website, and my checkbook spends there. But it's an incredible story, and so I'd like to recognize our speakers for today, which includes Will Connect, the president of Wendell August Forge, Chris Keck, master craftsman of Wendell August Forge, and Dave Soltes, president of the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundation. So with that, it is my distinct honor and my pleasure to introduce to all of you the chairwoman of our Board of Trustees here at CCAC. We are so fortunate to have her, Ms. Amy Kuntz. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Let me start by sharing my gratitude with all of those that have taken the time to make today possible, whether it was by planning and organizing the event or by agreeing to share your thoughts with us today, and especially to those of you that have come today to learn from our speakers. It's always a pleasure for me to welcome the audience to this event for several reasons. It's a pleasure because, and you know my bias here, CCAC is one of the greatest resources that our community has, and any opportunity that we have to show it off to any group of people is a good one from my perspective. It's also a pleasure because I would argue that Pittsburgh's history of labor management relationships is so very unique and interesting that it would really be a crime not for us to learn about it, to learn from that history and to take it with us forward. And finally, it's a pleasure to introduce the namesake for today's event. I consider Bob Mill to be a CCAC champion, a role model for me as board chair, and a friend. So without further ado, let me introduce Bob Mill.
Well, thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. Those kind words. I'd like to do something before we get started. Just bear with me for a little bit. I'd like for you all stand up for just 1 second. Okay, now we're going to play a little game. If this is your first lecture in this series, please sit down. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. If this is your second lecture, please sit down. Your third lecture? Fourth lecture. Look at this guy. 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. Wait a minute, who's the 8th? This is the 8th one. Yeah, it's the 8th one. All right, who was standing? Charlie, the 2 Charlies, and the staff in the back. There you go. Roseanne Nicola, make sure that you get credit cards from each one of them for their contribution. Thank you very much for being here, all those of you who attended. You honor me by your presence personally. Thank you very much. I'd like to do a little bit of housekeeping first of all and welcome the members of the advisory committee. If you'd please stand up. Charlie Bloxage. Charlie just retired a couple months ago from CCAC. Thank you. Jackie Cavalier, the endowed professor of the Robert M. Mill Chair. Jackie. Roseanne Nicola, who is our executive director. Roseanne. She's executive director of the foundation. Did I see John Zach? I thought I saw him come in. assistant professor. I thought he was Bill Flanagan, Executive VP of Corporate Relations, Allegheny County. Bob Howard, the Executive Director of Family House. And our consultant, Charlie McAllister. Charlie. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Did I? I don't think so. Oh, Mary Frances Archie. I apologize, Mary Frances. I knew I missed somebody. You know, I am very pleased today to two things. One is that I had the great honor of filling in for Leo Gerard, who couldn't be here today. And I know he wanted to be, particularly because of Will and Chris and what's been going on at the Wendell August Forge. And he sends his apologies, and so I have this great honor to replace Leo Gerard. So I will go around for the rest of my life telling people I replaced Leo Gerard. The second is to tell you about what's been going on here with the lecture series, the endowed chair, and now the Institute. I've been telling you, those of you who've been around for a long time, I've been telling you that my goal was to one day get an educational program here at the college where we would have an accredited program that people who are active participants in the industry, on labor side and on management side, would have the opportunity to come together in a classroom and study together, and to forge relationships that will go on for a lifetime. When I got into this business 40 years ago, into the labor business, I knew nothing about labor relations. The only thing I knew about labor was that my grandfather was a stonemason and came from Scotland to start the union here. My dad was the executive director of 2 trade associations. And that was it. That's what I knew. And I want to tell you that all through those 40 years, and I look around the room and I see friends of mine from a long time ago that put their arms around me and brought me in and taught me the business. And they were from labor side and they were from management side. And now all these years later, I want to make sure that young people coming into this business in Western Pennsylvania have the same opportunity for the rest of the industry to put their arms around them, bring them here to this classes here at the community college, and to understand the unique labor and management relations that we have in this community. That's been my dream. I want to tell you that the dream has come true. Starting in January, the first class will start. The first cohort will start. A 13 session first semester. We're really excited about it. We're going to have people from labor, people from management, learning from Jackie Cavalier as the professor, and representatives, practitioners from labor and management. Let me give you some highlights of who those people will be. People like John Surma, the retiring chairman of the board of U.S. Steel. Jack Shea, the president of the Allegheny County Labor Council. Jack Ramage, the head of the Master Builders Association. Dennis Yablonsky and Bill Flanagan from the Allegheny Conference. Jim Kunz from the Operating Engineers. All of these people and many, many more will be in the classroom actually teaching those students. What an opportunity to cram it all into each session. They're very specific sessions. They will lecture in each one of them supporting Jackie. I am really excited about this. There's only one problem. We've got to recruit students. We want the first cohort to be a minimum of 10 students from labor, 10 students from management. Today's the kickoff of that drive. We need to get those people together for that cohort to get started. Then, back in September of next year, the second cohort will start. And then it will continue after that. Now, the interesting thing about the cohort, not only will they be in class together for all of those 13 classes, and a summer session where they'll do online work, they will have the opportunity to be together for the whole 5 semesters. You can leave that program, but nobody can get in. So that cohort will stay together. No interference after the first class. We're really excited about this. In the packet that was given to you, there is some information about the program. There's also an application, and then there's also the ability to fill out an application online. If you have in your organization people who you think would be appropriate to put into this program, and we're thinking younger people who are just getting their feet wet in dealing with labor or in dealing with management would be the perfect candidates. So we hope that we can count on you to participate, find us students. We've got 1 month to do this, and I know that we'll fill that class up pretty quickly. But we did it, and I thank a lot of the people here, particularly at the community college, for the efforts that they put in. Jackie, Charlie, Mary Frances, Archie, who ran the program through governance here at the college. Wasn't an easy task, but we were able to do it. So please look at the information in your packet, and let's move on to the program. Now I'll pretend I'm Leo Gerard. I'd like to introduce to you our first speaker of the day. I knew the moment I spoke to Will Connect, he was a man of passion, not only about his business, but life as well. His exuberance is evident, as you will readily see today. Will is second generation of leadership at Wendell August Forge. His father, Bill, purchased the Forge from the August family in 1978, and Will has spent half of his life working at the Forge. Having learned the business from the ground up, he is perfectly suited for his current role as president of Wendell August Forge. He's proud of making products in the United States, and Will is also proud of the artisans that he has surrounding him that makes the Forge someplace special. His biggest challenge to date was the devastating fire and the return to operation in record time. That event is the cornerstone of today's lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Will Connect. Next, I'd like to welcome Chris Keck. Chris is a 6-year veteran of Wendell August Forge, where he admits to knowing nothing about the business when he started, and now he's a master craftsman. He manages a group of artisans at the Forge and is also the U.S. Steelworkers representative on site. Chris has been able to make positive changes to the contract at the Forge and clearly understands and appreciates the value of good labor and management relations. In addition to all of that, he will begin college in January, majoring in business management. We also have a program here, Chris, that you might be interested in. Consider yourself recruited. Please welcome Chris Keck. And last but certainly not least, Dave Soltes is a longtime member of the Pittsburgh Penguins senior management team. We first met during the construction phase of the Consol Energy Center in his previous role as the Senior Vice President of Sales. When the Pens won their last Stanley Cup, the players and apparently the staff had the opportunity to spend some precious time with the Stanley Cup alone. In my family, Dave Soltes is a hero because he took the Stanley Cup to my grandchildren's school for the day. This is a school where his grandchildren also go. So it wasn't for me, trust me. And so I had these great pictures of my grandchildren standing next to the Stanley Cup. A valuable asset to the Pens, Dave was asked to start the Pittsburgh Penguin Foundation, which is not the same as the Mario Lemieux Foundation. His major focus now is community outreach and charitable efforts. After the fire at Wendell August Forge, the Penguins had a role in its resurgence. He will tell us that story today. Please welcome Dave Soltes. All right, so let's get on with the show. Please welcome to the podium, Will Connect. Will?
Bob, I thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation. It was pretty amazing when he called and he mentioned his name and then he mentioned the lecture series. I was quite in awe of a man who, at his young age, has a lecture series named after him, and truly a great visionary for this region, and it's really a privilege to be here today at your namesake event and representing Wendell August. It truly is an honor for us, and there's one reason, and Chris and I have chatted about this and laughed about this, there's really one reason we're here, and that's because we had a fire. And that's a little bit unique to say and a little bit weird to say, but it is true, and how true in life that when tough things happen or bad things happen, the Lord has a way of turning those tough challenges into the greatest opportunity. And that's really what we're here to talk about and what we're privileged to share. 2008, 2009, Wendell August was having a very challenging time financially, as many companies were. In fact, our advisors told our family that it was maybe time to shut down the business, and not many people know that. Chris, you might not know that, but we made it. So, but 2008 told potentially shut down the business, and we decided as a company that wasn't even an option. We decided as a family that being able to make something in America is not only a privilege, it's an honor, and it's something that we should steward. And so in 2009, we spent that year really restructuring the company. And probably some of y'all have been involved in restructuring of companies. It's never easy. It's never painless. Actually, quite a bit of pain, and unfortunately, some very, very good people had to move in another direction with their professional careers. But toward the end of 2009, we really felt that our mojo was coming back, and that we were turning things around, and new opportunities were before us. We entered 2010 with incredible joy and incredible excitement about what was happening. And in early March, and it was a Thursday, and it was March 4th to be exact, we had the privilege of being invited into the office of the Pittsburgh Penguins and to meet with a gentleman by the name of Dave Soltesz and his entire marketing team for the Penguins and the foundation, and to present an opportunity to work with Wendell August on tickets commemorating the last game at Mellon Arena. And we left that meeting hopeful, but our palms were a little bit sweaty. My colleague at the time, he and I went to it was a Chinese buffet in Cranberry, and we were having dinner when the fateful call came, I believe from Dave, you guys got the job. And it was going to be the largest job in the Wendell August history. To say that we were excited is, that'd be an understatement. We went to work the next day. Our grins were this big, high-fiving each other, brought the entire employee base together. Not only were we excited about the fact that it was the biggest job in our corporate history, but that we would be able to do it with the Pittsburgh Penguins. That was huge for us. So literally that afternoon, we got about the business of readying that order, because I think we only had a little over 4 weeks to deliver it. And cross-functionally, we got together, the artisans and craftsmen, we got together and we plotted out a course to get us to, I think it was early April 7th maybe, as that last game at Mellon. And we were so excited. Friday ended and we were just sky high. Saturday, the day dawned beautifully, March 6th, but about 1 o'clock, I met one of our stores at the Grove City Outlet Mall, and I get a call, and it's actually from Chris. Will, get back here. The forge is on fire. And I made my delivery to the store, and I picked up, what I was supposed to take back to our business. And I'm getting to my car, and I get a second phone call from one of our colleagues. Will, the forge is burning, get back here. So I got in my car, and I drove about the 5 miles to Grove City. And as I'm about 3-4 miles out, I see a huge plume of smoke, and recognize that maybe this was a little bit more significant than I had originally thought it might be. And when we got there, it was pretty evident that it was a significant event. I had to park 4 or 5 blocks away. There were multiple fire departments on the site, and it was pretty surreal. But it was kind of wild. I had this amazing peace about me during this whole time. And as I walked up to the site, there were employees who were seeking Chris out, seeking me out, seeking others out in tears. Because again, we'd just been through a very rough time from a company standpoint, and people were naturally fearful for their jobs. And people asked me, Will, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to feed my kids? And it became apparent that we needed to do something. And so at that moment, Chris and I and about 38 other people gathered around, and we joined into a prayer circle. And I can remember the prayer very clearly. Lord, we don't understand what's going on. You do. We trust you. Just show us what you need us to do. Very simple, very quick. Literally, we broke that prayer circle, and it was almost as if the lights were back on. And we got about the business of rebuilding our company. We had no option. There was no way we were going to disappoint this man who had just put so much trust in us for the Pittsburgh Penguins organization to give us the honor of that order. There was no way we were going to disappoint Dave Soltes. And March 4th, when we got that call, the biggest order in our history, how important it was to us, we had no idea how truly important it was. It was an entire rallying point for all 70 employees at Wendell August. We had a clear-cut vision, we had a clear-cut path, as daunting as it was, but we knew exactly what we needed to do. The day after the fire, I'm on the site with our insurance adjuster. He pulls me aside and he says, "Will, I need you to prepare for being out of business for 9 months." I'm like, not a chance. We can't be out of business for 9 months. Here's what happened. 5 days after the fire, our temporary workshop was up and running. 5 days. And we had our first hammer event where we made our first ticket. It was incredible. 2 weeks after the fire, our corporate offices opened. And 4 weeks after, we opened our temporary flagship store in space in Grove City. Truly miraculous. And I would suggest to you providential. I could tell you 100 stories of the ways God worked in and through that time, preparing us for the fire, during that time as we were recovering, and then post-fire. Amazing, amazing stuff. But suffice it to say, Dave Soltes did not realize how important he would be to a community. And the Pittsburgh